So lately, it seems like every photo that is anomalous is immediately coined as AI. I remember they used to do this with CGI. That was the old term. And I don't know how intelligent the AI really is. Just a computer, still soulless. And maybe man was once kind of soulless. I don't know. I tend to think more like the Native Americans, that everything has a spirit. I just think of the story of Adam and Eve and how such a change took place by eating the fruit, whether literally or metaphorically. Still, such a big deal, such a betrayal from the story's perspective as God. The success for the serpent, tempting and sold. Reminds me of eating the forbidden mushroom or other types of sacred plants. But yeah, what were they before the fruit? Perhaps more like animals, just content as long as they're seemingly free, well fed. I wanted to make this video weeks ago, but it just hasn't happened. I'm recording in the rig at home. I feel like all the animals are mad at me. I feel like everybody's mad at me. If you are, I'm sorry. Not intentional. I feel like I'm just hiding out. I feel like if I could just have a good year, peace and seclusion, I would be healed. So anyway, enough of my rantings. I hope you're all doing well. Today we're gonna look at one of the great wonders. I don't know if it is. It should be. Of this realm, and maybe something else. I love you all. God bless, and welcome. So, one of the greatest mysteries, or I don't know, I don't think it's a mystery. I think this research demystifies everything, makes it more approachable. I mean, if you tell someone millions of years, one grain of sand eroding every several thousand years, it's just done. Designed to shut down the mind. But before we look at the greatest, or whatever, again, I don't know if it's a wonder officially, I want to look at this mysterious door in Jinyan, Shandong, China. And this appears to be drone footage. And again, can such a thing be AI, I suppose? Anything can be artificial. I mean, you could watch a movie and they can make it look like anything. And I'm just shocked that it's us that are accused of this, when it has been their tactic. I mean, everything from NASA since the beginning, created on a movie set initially and later effects, green screens, and even going as far as using pools and such. I think it's clear. I mean, I think everybody knows about the moon landings. I mean, does anybody still believe in that footage? Really? Can I assume that this is obvious? I don't know. I mean, if it's shared with millions, if it's like in schools, I think there's a motive. I mean, even the recent things over the last several years, the C word, Jabberwockies, all of those images of spiky things were fake. Nobody's ever seen a real spiky thing. Even if they had the real ones, they showed us the fake ones. Even the damn Earth. I mean, again, the Earth. 8, 9, maybe 12 official images of like what should be the most important photo in the world is CGI. I mean, how dare we be accused when they're like pulling in billions, maybe trillions over the years for these stupid programs and fake CGI images of our whole supposed realm, which it's not. It's just a fake. I would defund all space BS. I would defund all of the war machine. Probably send them to some island like Alcatraz. Although Alcatraz was once old world and probably very beautiful, probably a paradise before our people would arrive, but not the topic today. So I'll play this over and over while I'm ranting. And what do you think? Is this legit? Personally, I think it is. We can see the transition of different building materials. We clearly have concrete, we have some steel, we have a vacated door on the right side, and we see a transitioning of these cooked out blocks, and then they become more fused, but still the same block pattern, and then everything just balloon rocks. And we can even see what look like mortar lines. And some graffiti. Maybe in China they're told these are petroglyphs, and this is an old native Chinese petroglyph. So let's move on to the main feature. Okay, the Suez Canal. Is this the origins of the sewer? So like I said, this should be a wonder of the world, and I don't think it is. I don't think they want us to really think about it or look into it. I've discussed the Panama Canal before, and lots of canals, artificial waterways, and this is a recognized artificial waterway. That's why I wanted to focus on it. I thought it would be fun to see what they say. Maybe it's very reasonable, and this just becomes a nothing to see here moment. But I've already had a peek, and unfortunately it's not one of those moments. I mean, we have really, really stupid stories for everything in the last couple centuries. Comical historical narratives. When it comes to 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, absolute comedy and ridiculosity. A good example, as we touched on in a past video, the pyramids, slaves pulling massive blocks with ropes or whatever, logs in the desert. One of my favorites is Le Pont, or the Bridge d'Avignon. I sung you the song once. Sur le Pont d'Avignon. Beautiful old world bridge dating back as far back as one could entertain. We are told it was built by supernatural beings. No story, basically. No healthy, acceptable story. And yet, that's it. But it's not a very known bridge. The song about it is in French, eluding most people. Song about inheriting this bridge, singing, dancing. But anyway, we have some similar thing going on here. The Suez Canal is an artificial sea-level waterway in Egypt, connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. It is 193 kilometers or 120 miles. So that's going to take me about 2.5 hours driving at 70 miles an hour. Nice little cruise. And what do they say? In 1858, French diplomat Ferdinand Lesseps formed the Campaign of the Suez. He wanted to build a canal in 1858. Ah, the year. Such ambition in this year. Oh, construction of the canal lasted from 1859 to 1869. 10 years. In this time period, think about any little stretch of road they've worked on around your house for what now? A year, 2, maybe 3 for this stupid little stretch of road? Here, in 1858, 10 years, blaze a canal worthy of massive ships through here. Is that logical? Before mass industry? Before power? That's what they say. 10 glorious 1800s years. It opened November 1869. Open. There we go. In 2021, 20,000 plus vessels went through the canal. This 10-year canal. So now we move down for a little more history. Legends of the canal. I mean, there have to have been legends. And really, I don't buy the most recent story we are given on anything. I'm actually more interested in the legends, myths, the old stories. And yet I don't believe the old stories either, but I think they're a little closer to the truth. I mean, for example, the most recent stories, they built it in 10 years by that man up there. That's it. But now we have these older stories. And like I said, I don't really believe these older stories either, but they tell us that there was a history of a canal. And of course I propose what I always do, that this canal was already here. Otherwise you could never push this story. The only reason they can push the story is because it was here. And they can tell us they built it in a year if they want to. But here in the BC times, they start talking about an attempt to construct the canal, pharaohs, and of course, I mean, whoever built the damn pyramids built the damn canal. What, like, you couldn't build a canal if you could build a pyramid, even if it was not made of brick and it was just made out of giant blocks? Okay, the block people could build a canal. And I don't think the pyramids were tombs. The tomb. I haven't done tomb videos in a while. One of my favorites. The tomb. Like a giant building. Beautiful tomb. There's so many tombs that are not tombs, is what I'm saying. Pyramids are not tombs. If anything, they had giant cranes on them, offloading goods from these canals. You see, that's part of the ploy. Everything must be painted as old religious things. Tombs, burial mounds, everything was primitive. I mean, what a slap in the face. This was a tomb for a pharaoh. And it's the same with the last 200 years of history. This was a World's Fair. 200 acres, thousands of acres, hundreds of buildings. Oh yeah, just a fair. A building fair? What kind of fair? Sorry. So canal. Aristotle wrote in 300 BC, one of the kings tried to make a canal. And I'm very suspicious of these names of old. Aristotle. Aristotle who? Pliny the Elder. Well, I've never heard of Pliny the Young. Strabo. Oh, Strabo. Come on. Now, I think these are old writings, and these authors have left us a lot of wisdom. However, these books have been rewritten. The faces and names have been changed. Probably code for those who wrote them to preserve the wisdom for themselves. But I don't dismiss them either, even if they're just a husk of the truth. But honestly, I don't even need any of it. I mean, I would be satisfied with modern day canal construction if we had video of it. I would be satisfied to accept that it could be built today, but not in this time period, with the means that we are told were available to the people in 1858. That's all. And a lot of details about the old stuff, as always. Very little. 10 short, glazed over years for the actual construction, and all this talk, Napoleon, King Darius. And you see my point, just a great history, just fragments left behind. Altered, no doubt, but there are two histories. There's the official history on paper pushed by academia, and then there's the known history. Oral carries on through communities and families and songs, sometimes other traditions. In the case with Native Americans, dances and ceremonies. So let's take a pause. So here it says they took 4 years to prepare. The British government was opposed. Excavation took 10 years with forced labor until 1864. So you see, it's so unrealistic. Nobody in their right mind would come work out here. How are you going to employ people out here in the 1800s? We're told forced labor. Some sources, here's the source, estimate that over 30,000 people were working on the canal at any given time period. More than 1.5 million people from various countries were employed. So again, were they employed or was it forced labor? They tell us that tens of thousands of people perished, many of them from cholera. I mean, how are you feeding, these people? How are you housing these people? Even if they are forced labor, just use them up, give them a meal and slave them until they kick the bucket. There's so much more that goes into construction, the needs of the workers. It's the same thing with my last video where I discussed the pyramids. Again, slaves. For the slave system to successfully play out, you must feed and house the people, except for this modern system that we find ourselves in. Otherwise, you have a revolt on your hands. But anyway, I just don't even believe this story. I mean, I can't believe they're pulling this again in the same area. The same area as the pyramids. Here we have these pyramids, and we're told slaves built them in BC times. And then in the 1800s, you want to build a canal, and again, slaves, forced labor. Their words. Here it is. To dig out the canal. Up to 120,000. Just disposable. Again, where did they find these people? It's not easy rounding up people. Or even cats. Nobody goes willingly unless you feed them, gain their trust, and ultimately maintain this trust. So lastly, I want to just surf around and look at this canal and some other anomalies from above. Okay, final part. Chief is very accustomed to eating at 4 to 5 o'clock, and this time of year, it feels like 4 to 5 all day. It's part of the reason I'm recording in the rig tonight, and after this, it will be that time. So I don't really like Google Maps, but I'm reluctant to download Google Earth right now, or any other app that disregards my privacy. But here we go, super artificial land, beginning of the canal. And we have several canals here. I mean, they just had a good old time in this 10 years. Dead-end canals here. And interestingly, this was not my initial interest. I just want to show you the perfection real quick. Absolutely cut perfection. And this is just as bad as the Erie Canal in North America, which we've discussed at great lengths in the past. Although here, you don't have to fight the elevation gains that they had in the Erie Canal region. No need to build complex lock systems. But one of my favorites is what they're really blurring out here, and that is proof that there was something else going on. And it's in complete ruins now, scattered all over where nobody bothers to look. So here we go. Sometimes we're told these are farms, and for the most part we're not told anything about them. We're not even shown them. Pretty damn fascinating, even in their deteriorated condition. And it's everywhere. Sometimes the patterns look like this. And here we can see a bunch of land masses, and here's where it gets really cool. Here we go. So we have this like road, and then this is swamplands, and you can see they're calling them farms again. Fish farms. So you went out in the water and made all these artificial roads for farming fish, and sometimes they're clearly not fish farms. That's why I call BS. Okay, here, there's no fish farm. So sometimes people make claims to these essentially resources. I mean, it is land and water, and we can see more canal here. So who built all these canals is what I'm saying. There were canals everywhere. There still are unused canals, and this is the remains of something much greater than what we're being told. And this canal story is BS, and these fish farm stories are BS, and it doesn't end. I've explored these for hundreds of miles. I mean, sometimes there's no access to them, and maybe they are being used as fish farms today, but they were here long before the newcomers would arrive. So that's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed. I love you all. God bless, and I'll see you next week.